Welcome in for episode number 40 of the Silver and Blue Podcast. I'm your host, Nate Sanchez. Joining me, as always, is my co-host, Corey Douglas. Corey, we're recording this on the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, and it's one of my favorite times of the year when we get the Cowboys Thanksgiving game, and it's a big one for Dallas as they're coming in 7-3, taking on a division rival that is also 7-3. So should be a good one. Really excited for tomorrow. How are we feeling, Corey?
Yeah, I think we're feeling good. Some of that New York Giants injury news came out, and
Yeah.
I know Michael Parsons is probably looking forward to that, seeing how many offensive linemen they're going to be down. But I'm just overall excited. Coming off a big win on Sunday, the Cowboys have struggled on Thanksgiving as of late, losing three in a row, and three really bad games from the entire team. So hopefully, we can kind of change that trend and continue in the right direction for this season.
Yeah, it's been a while since they've come away with a win on Thanksgiving, and frankly, it kind of bummed me out a little bit when I looked at the recent history because I'm currently a senior in college, and I was like, man, I was in high school the last time the Cowboys won a Thanksgiving game, so
Mhm.
it's been a few years. So hopefully the Cowboys are able to get it done tomorrow. Really important game for Dallas. They really need to make sure that they keep their foot on the gas and there isn't some sort of letdown from the big win on Sunday against Minnesota. And truthfully, you could pretty much bury the Giants in the division if you come away with a win on Thursday. So because the Cowboys and Giants, again, like I said, both sitting at 7-3. If you win, you would be a game up on them, and you would have the tiebreaker given that you swept them. So again, really important game. Really important that Dallas doesn't get any sort of drop off in this game, and it would be nice to keep Dak Prescott's streak against the Giants going. Dak Prescott has won 9 straight starts against the New York Giants, and he has traditionally owned the NFC East whenever he plays. So really important game for tomorrow. And again, really important to not have a letdown.
Yeah, you mentioned the streak. It's kind of funny going back to Dak's rookie year. How the last time the Giants were actually good, that was a team that pretty much the only team that was able to kind of contain that Dak and Zeke rookie year campaign. But overall, like you said, big game. Of course, all the division games are important. You want to kind of stay in that first wild card spot at the very least. Kind of lining up those matchups with whoever I guess it's probably going to be the winner of the NFC South, which I would probably put money on Tampa Bay. Get a rematch with them. I'm not sure how I feel about that, but overall, you got to keep pace with Philadelphia. And yeah, important game. It's important to kind of continue that momentum. I know all the players have talked about that, and there's kind of like an underlying. It's kind of a joke, but not really a joke. It's the OBJ Bowl. Both teams are going to meet with Odell after this game, sometime next week. And the result of tomorrow could go a long way into
Yeah.
deciding who he chooses. So, big game, from a standing perspective, and also if you want some reinforcements to come in.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, I touched on it earlier, and let's do our usual bit where we get into the injury reports. Um, you touched on it earlier. The Giants are really banged up coming into this game. Wan'Dale Robinson tore his ACL, and then they just released their injury report a little bit ago. Um, they have 4 offensive linemen that have all started a game at some point in the season. Ruled out Josh Azedu, John Feliciano, who is a starter for them. Both out. Evan Neal, their right tackle, who DeMarcus Lawrence had a field day with back in, was that week 3, maybe
Week
week
three.
4? I forget
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Three.
DeMarcus Lawrence had a field day with him, so he is also out. Fabian Moreau also out. Adoree Jackson out. Giants have gotten some really tough injury news lately. Andrew Thomas is listed as questionable. He was a DMP Tuesday and was limited Wednesday, so I guess that means he's probably going to play. But yeah, the Giants are really, really, really banged up, especially up front, and frankly, that creates a little bit of a mismatch for the Dallas or for the Dallas pass rush.
Yeah, I know from the Giants' perspective, I know they can't feel good coming into this game on a short week against the number one team as far as getting sacks in the NFL with all those offensive linemen down. But this is a situation where I don't want the Cowboys to look at the injury report and kind of take their foot off the gas and like, all right, well, these guys can't play and, don't come out as sharp, come out with as much injury. And then, because on the other side, the Cowboys, they're not dealing necessarily with injuries, but they're dealing with, this flu or whatever they have going on around in the locker room where, multiple guys have missed practice, including a couple guys had to come out of Sunday's game due to illness. So this isn't a spot where you need to take your foot off the gas. We've talked about the importance of this matchup, and it's something that these players, they have to go out there and take care of business because it's not going to be handed to you. They're coming off a bad loss at home against Detroit, and they're going to come out. They're going to try to establish the run with Saquon Barkley, which we'll get to in a minute. But no, it's very important for this defensive line, especially to come out and kind of set the tone like they did Sunday.
Yeah, and the Cowboys, getting into Cowboys into report, they aren't exactly a shining picture of health themselves either. Anthony Barr has already been ruled out. Again, he was thought to be good to go Sunday against the Vikings, but apparently he tweaked his hamstring again on Saturday. So Barr is out. Terrell Basham also listed as doubtful with an illness. Sounds like there's some sort of bug going around the NFL right now because it's not just the Cowboys that have some illness issues going around. There's been a bunch of reports today about different players having illnesses and having issues with that. Dante Fowler, questionable. Jonathan Hankins listed as doubtful, also with an illness. Kelvin Joseph. Yeah, it's weird. You look at the injury report, and here's how many people are. Here's all the players on the injury report listed with illnesses: Neville Gallimore, Donovan Wilson, DeMarcus Lawrence, Kelvin Joseph, Jonathan Hankins, Dante Fowler, Terrell Basham. So it looks like a little bit of a bug's going around that defensive line room. So Donovan Wilson was a DNP today. He's questionable. Neville Gallimore was limited. He's questionable. It sounds like Parsons and it was reported by, I think, John Machota that Parsons and Lawrence are questionable, but both should be good to go. But it sounds like we're going to be down Basham and Hankins and then maybe some more. And it was reported that Tack McKinley, who they just brought in off the street, signed him as a free agent. The former Falcons first round pick. They brought him up from the practice squad, who they just signed him last week. So it sounds like he's going to get some run tomorrow. Not sure how much, but looks like tomorrow's going to be a big Sam Williams day.
Yeah, and I was just gonna, Rappaport tweeted out about an hour ago that due to so many people missing or questionable due to illness, that is why Tack McKinley is going to be brought up and activated for this game. This is a guy that the Cowboys really loved in the draft prospect or the draft process, and now he's going to get his shot, and he's come into the expectations are high for this defensive line, so it's going to be important for him to come in and whatever role he has, embrace it and own that role.
Yeah, it's going to be really. I'm interested to see how he looks, just because he was kind of a flop on the Falcons, and again, we know the Cowboys liked him, and Dan Quinn was actually in Atlanta whenever they drafted him.
Yep.
So there's a connection there. There's a clear relationship. So they're able to sort of rescue Dante Fowler's career. So I guess we'll see if they can do the same for Tack McKinley. Not super optimistic, but I don't mind bringing him up for this game when you're banged up and sick, especially along the defensive line. So that's that on the Cowboys injury report. Let's get into the Cowboys offense against the Giants defense. I'm just looking for another strong performance from the Dallas offense here. Just keep building on what we've seen. They've been one of the best offenses in the NFL since Dak Prescott has returned. And Sunday was just unbelievable what Dak and Tony Pollard and all those guys did against the Giants. So the Giants are still reasonably stout up front. Dexter Lawrence is one of the best defensive linemen in football. And I believe Leonard Williams is good to go for tomorrow. So the Giants have some monsters up front. I think Dallas will be able to make some hay in the secondary, especially with blanking Xavier McKinney, the Alabama safety who broke his hand on their bye week. He's still out, and as well as Adoree Jackson, who's recently out. So I think Dallas is going to be able to make some hay through the air against the Giants.
Yeah, when you look at the week 3 matchup, I'm just going down the numbers right now. Of course, this was with Cooper Rush. He went 21 of 31 for 215 yards, a touchdown, no interceptions. He didn't get sacked at all. You look at the run game, Zeke and Pollard. Tony Pollard 13 carries over 100 yards. Zeke 15 carries for 73 yards. So this is a defense where the Cowboys have had success against them already this season. And now we have our starting quarterback out there. So I'm expecting for them to go out and be able to kind of, for lack of a better phrase, kind of do what they want to this defense. I mean, I think the Cowboys are as far superior as far as talent goes from this Giants team. We talked about this before the Week 3 matchup, even with Cooper Rush out there. This is a game that the Cowboys should be able to, continue scoring 30 points and, get out of here, with a win. CD Lamb in that game, 8 catches, 87 yards, and a touchdown. If you remember that game, he had a
Mhm.
great drive where he just kind of took over there and ended the drive with that touchdown. So there's precedent here for the Cowboys to have a lot of success both through the air and on the ground.
Yeah, and a lot of that success that they had was with play action. This was early in the Cooper Rush uh, era. I don't think era is the right word, but maybe the stretch of Cooper Rush when Dak was out, where they used a lot of play action to try and get Cooper Rush going. And I think they've kind of kept their foot on that pedal in terms of utilizing play action and pre snap motion since Dak came back, which is something I was calling for, and I'm really glad to have seen that. I think they go back to the well with that a little bit, and they're going to need to be able to run the ball a little bit against the Giants just because your defense is probably going to be out there a while. You're going to need your defense might get worn out with this Giants rushing attack. I know they're banged up on the offensive line, but Saquon Barkley's having a monster year. Daniel Jones, his legs are a massive weapon. So you're going to need to be able to put together some possessions and keep your defense off the field and keep them rested. So yeah, Connor McGovern, Zach Martin, Tyler Biotish, and especially those guys on the interior are going to be they're going to have their hands full, I think, against Dexter Lawrence and especially Leonard Williams. So there's a lot of talent on this Giants defense. And again, I know they're banged up, but they've been one of the better defenses in the NFL so far this season. So this isn't an area where Dallas is going to be able to walk all over them. But again, we keep bringing up the injuries. Dory Jackson being out, Xavier McKinney being out. That secondary can be had a little bit as currently constructed.
Yeah, and I just want, coming off a game where you score 40 points and, you're kind of doing what you want, you're efficient on offense, you're converting third downs. The main reason you're converting third downs is because you're getting into those short and manageable
Yep.
situations to where, you're not having to go third and 11, third and 15. You're not committing penalties. You're, having success in the run game. You're just being an overall physical team. And I think that's what we saw against Minnesota, where they were just kind of bullying Minnesota, pretty much the entire game. And like they scored the first 7 possessions of the game, either a field goal or a touchdown. So just continuing that momentum. And because if you look at the game plan in that matchup, it was making sure that you get the run game going, keeping Dak Prescott around 20, 25 passes, somewhere around there. He plays efficient football, completing
Mhm.
22 of them. And, that's the recipe for success for this team. Keeps your defense rested, like you just alluded to. And, it makes, wears on the other end, it wears their defense out and, puts the opposing team in, one-dimensional situations. And when you look at Daniel Jones and that offense, they're not a team that's going to come back from behind. So if you jump out early on them, make them play from behind, you definitely set yourself up for success.
Yeah, and I think I mentioned it earlier, but Fabian Moreau is also out, and he's also one of their starting corners. So this is a really banged up Giants secondary. If you're able to, run the ball effectively and get yourself in manageable third down situations, then I think Dak and the offense are going to be able to get some stuff going. CD has traditionally been pretty good against the Giants. We saw it earlier this year. Last year in the game in Dallas, he's kind of torched the Giants in the past, so I think we may get a little bit more of that. And another name that I'm looking at is Michael Gallup. Michael Gallup really, has struggled early on when he came back from his injury, and he's getting better and better. And I thought Sunday was the best he's looked since he's returned, bar none. I know he had a touchdown against Washington, and he's made some plays here and there, but I thought Sunday was his most complete game in terms of I thought he looked the healthiest. He made a couple very he made a couple catches where I was like, that's the Michael Gallup I remember. And we hadn't really gotten that yet
Hmm.
this year. So he's definitely someone I'm going to keep my eye on, especially with the injuries in the Giants secondary. But yeah, this could be a big day for the Dallas receivers. And honestly, maybe they go back to the well with Pollard out of the backfield, because a lot of times you get linebackers matched up on running backs in open space. And, that's how Pollard scored his second touchdown when I believe it was Jordan Hicks that was guarding him on the Vikings on that 68-yard touchdown pass. Maybe they look to take advantage of a guy like our old friend Jalen Smith, who we know for a fact is not good in coverage, really struggles with change of directions and speed. That's an area where Tony Pollard could maybe make something happen. So there's definitely some matchups here that Dallas can exploit.
Yeah, and then it just for me for the Cowboys offense, I think you retweeted a tweet, calling for people that were calling out Kellen Moore and kind of calling for his job and saying he's not very good. I think you said it was kind of utterly ridiculous. Um, and I think where some of that comes into play is because sometimes he gets too cute with it. You found a recipe that had a lot of success last week, so just hammer home that game plan. And it doesn't really matter when you have these type of talents and you're playing this type of way, especially on the offensive line. Dak Prescott's getting his rhythm back, after coming back from injury. It's time to make sure we don't come out and try to just throw the ball all over the field for 40 times. Just because it's Dak Prescott and we beat these guys without him, so we can just kind of come out and do whatever we want. It's just not going into this game with
Mhm.
a level of cockiness that you don't need to have. So I just think really it's the Cowboys. It's up to the Cowboys to dictate on kind of how we're going to play this football game and
Mhm.
make the Giants play it on their terms.
Yeah, absolutely. And then another thing that I wanted to bring up was, just traditionally how Dak has dominated the NFC East. You know, we know that he's dominated the NFC East, but especially at home, that's when we've really gotten those big routes where the offense really explodes.
Hmm.
Looking at Dak's last few games, I just searched. I filtered it Dak Prescott at home versus NFC since 2018, and the numbers for his whole career are really good. But I think 2018 is kind of when we saw him take that next step into the upper echelon of quarterbacks. Since then, he has a passer rating of 120.1 with 2,800 yards, 25 touchdowns, and 5 picks in 10 games against the NFC East at home since 2018. His last, let's see here. I'm looking at his numbers. Yeah, the only game where the numbers are kind of off are the Giants game in 2020 where he got hurt. I believe in the first half. But yeah, he's in
Hmm.
games that he started and finished. Here are his yardage totals recently. Again, this is dating back to 2018, and we're starting with last year. 330, 302, 238, 303, 239, 405, 455, 289. I mean, that's it's impressive stuff. And we've really seen some offensive explosions from the Cowboys recently. And in his last three home in his last I'm looking here. In his last three home games, he's had passer ratings of 143.3, 116.9, 131.4. You get the point. Dak dominates the NFC East, especially at home. So this is a great spot where I think, we get another really good Dak game, just because traditionally we've seen him do this to NFC East opponents at home. Well, at home and on the road, but especially at home.
Yeah, it gets ugly for NFC East teams when they come to AT&T Stadium, and I think that's just been a trend kind of over the last couple of years. I feel like it just this offense and the play calling and just the whole thing just seems to come together so much better. At home. You go back to last year towards the end of the year when they played well. It was at home, aside from the playoffs and the Arizona game. But this is just a team that they love playing at AT&T Stadium. I remember this team used to catch a lot of heat because they didn't play well there. It's not a home field advantage. Crowd noise is not enough, and you can go down the list as far as complaints that fans and media members had for this team. And I think that's changed around over the last couple of years, and that's important in today's NFL because of course they won the division last year. They're kind of probably, I don't know if they're going to win the division this year. It's kind of still up in the air, but when you can play well at home, it sets yourself up to kind of have success in the playoffs if you can get those home games.
Yeah, yeah, and again, even like last year, like you mentioned, especially we saw it last year. Um, all three home games against NFC East teams were offensive eruptions, I believe. And I know there's some pick sixes, maybe some defensive touchdowns here and there. I forget, all it was a year ago, but I believe they scored 41 against Philadelphia on that Monday night game last year. They hung,
56 on
what was it,
Washington.
56 on Washington, and then I remember Dak. I don't remember the exact score of the Giants home game last year, but pull that up for me. But I remember
Yeah,
that was
man.
also a little bit of an offensive eruption. They've just the offense. This Cowboys offense really gets going at home, especially on a fast track indoor on turf. I'm expecting a really good output for the Cowboys offense tomorrow. This just screams another 30 plus point outing for the Dallas
44 to
offense.
20.
Yeah, 40. Okay, so let me get my calculator out here. 44 plus 41 plus 56 divided by 3. Yeah, at home. Yeah, that's even higher than I thought it would be. At home against the NFC East last year, the Cowboys offense averaged 47 points a game. Hey, that is
Yeah.
absurd. So should be good tomorrow offensively. Let's get into the defense though, because I think offensively Dallas has their matchups that we discussed, and again, we'll see how it plays out. The one area that I'm a little bit worried about is on the interior with Dexter Lawrence and Leonard Williams, and but the offensive line has been playing a lot better lately, so we'll see how that turns out. But defensively, um, this I think this conversation starts and ends with I don't mean literally. Like we'll discuss the other parts of the offense, but this starts and ends with the Cowboys' defensive line against the Giants' offensive line. With how banged up they are, this should be nothing short of domination up front by the Dallas defense. If they're able to stay sharp on their assignments, keep discipline on gaps, because if you make a mistake, Saquon Barkley will make you pay for it.
We
But if
saw
they're
that
able to
in
take
week
care of that
3.
and make Daniel Jones' arm beat you, I think that this could be church for the Cowboys offense or Cowboys defense.
Yeah, and I fully expect the Giants to come out here, and I think they are going to try to run the ball down the Cowboys defense's throats. I think we're going to see a game plan similar to the Green Bay Packers game plan, where they just came out and said, "Look, we're going to have Aaron Rodgers throw the ball 20 times." I think the Giants will do that with Daniel Jones. I think if he gets to 20 attempts, the Giants obviously will have been trailing in this game, which is where the Cowboys offense needs to have them, because if they come out and they're doing the read option stuff where Daniel Jones is keeping it, he had 79 rushing yards against the Cowboys in week 3. Saquon had 81 yards rushing on 14 attempts, and part of the reason he only had 14 attempts is not only because of the read option, but because about midway through this game, the Giants took a lead, but then the Cowboys responded immediately. The CD Lamb drive, but then they were pretty much in control the rest of the game. So the Cowboys did put the ball in, Daniel Jones's hands, and he completed 54% of his passes, 37 attempts, completed 20 of them, 196 yards, 5.3 yards per attempt. He threw 1 interception and got sacked 5 times. That is the recipe on how you beat the New York Giants this year. They're 7-3, but I think when you look at that 7-3, it's kind of similar to the way you looked at that 8-1 Minnesota Vikings team, where it's like, all right, they might be a decent team, but they're probably not the best. 8-1 last week, or 7-3 for the Giants this week. They're not the best 7-3 team around, but you have to go out there and show that. And the way you do that from a defensive perspective, put the ball in Daniel Jones's hand, make
Yeah.
him make plays. He just lost another receiver, like you mentioned at the top of the show, Wan'Dale Robinson. He had a 100-yard game last week. That's one weapon down, and if you can contain Darius Slayton, I don't know where else he can turn in the passing game. So that is your way to victory against this Giants team this week.
Well, good thing if you're the Giants, you gave a really good wide receiver $18 million a year to step in and be that guy in Kenny Galladay, but that hasn't exactly worked out for them, and now he's gonna have to play. as much as they've tried to not use him, because that contract has been an abject disaster for them. So, yeah, this just really is going to be all about making Daniel Jones beat you, like you said. They're averaging, I believe, they rank 29th in the league in pass yards a game. They're averaging 177 passing yards a game. That is dismal, to say the least. But they're fourth in the league in rushing yards, fifth in the league in time of possession because they're able to run that ball and put together drives. So yeah, this New York Giants team really just is reliant on the run. And I think if Dallas is able to sell out and stop the run, then this is going to work out well for them. And this is a game where maybe they might miss a guy like Jonathan Hankins, but if you're able to do what they did to the Vikings and get into third and long situations, don't commit penalties, and force Daniel Jones to have to beat you on 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7, third and 11, somewhere in there. That's where this pass rush can tee off. And frankly, if the Dallas offense is able to get Dallas out in front a little bit with maybe 7-0, 10-0, something like that, that's where you really start to see this defensive line and the pass rush tee off on quarterbacks, because that's frankly what we saw on Sunday against the Vikings. So I'm not too worried about the Giants beating them through the air. I think the only way the Giants keep this close is if they're able to string together drives and just feed Saquon, and Daniel Jones beats them with their legs a few times. It's just going to be all about, can you stop that run? And I think if Dallas is able to, I'm not even asking them to shut down the run. If they're able to even slow it down a little bit, I think Dallas may roll in this game pretty easily.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned Kenny Galladay because I was in and out of that Giants Lions game, but I just happened to catch one of Kenny Galladay's catches, one of his 4 catches on the season on Sunday, and he got the loudest reaction from New York fans. The Bronx cheers, what they call it, at Yankee Stadium, but he kind of got one of those sarcastic cheers from the fans, and obviously, New York is not the place that you want to go to kind of have the
No,
struggles that Kenny Galladay has had.
no.
But now he's going to be their top receiver when you look at their depth chart, outside of Darius Slayton. So it's going to be tough, I think, for the Giants to move the ball through the air, especially when you have an elite corner like the Cowboys do with Trevon Diggs on the back end. He's going to blanket whoever he's on. So you're going to have to look for other options. I would imagine that, they might put, Diggs on Slayton a lot just to make sure that he's taken care of, and then kind of force Daniel Jones to have to make some decisions and read the field. And I think we could get, 2 or 3 turnovers in this game on defense, just because Daniel Jones is kind of out of options. So, and he turned the ball over twice this past week against the Lions, something that I think he went into the last week's game with 2 turnovers, period. He had 2 or 3 on Sundays. So, it's kind of, it's not his fault necessarily, but he's going to make some mistakes in this game, and being able to capitalize them on, is going to be important.
Yeah, absolutely. They're just gonna have to, do what Daniel Jones, and I'll give him credit. Daniel Jones has been a lot better recently, but a lot better this year than he has been in his career, which isn't saying a lot. But Daniel Jones has been better. He deserves credit for that. So it's going to be about forcing him into making those mistakes, and we saw him make those mistakes when Dallas met the Giants on Monday Night Football early in the year. And just looking at kind of how the Lions were able to have success against the Giants. Lions were reasonably efficient on 3rd down, above average. 6 of 13 is above average. They didn't really beat them through the air. They were just methodical down the field, and they were able to put together drives. They held the Giants to 89 rushing yards, and it was church. There was nothing the Giants could really do about it. Giants turned the ball over 3 times. So, if the Dallas defense is able to get one takeaway, this game might be over. It's also, you mentioned Trevon Diggs. This is another opportunity for him to, he's been close on getting another interception, and the propensity that the Giants have to turn the ball over, this could maybe be a big Trevon Diggs game. Again, we don't really know what exactly Dallas is going to be able to roll out there with that injury report and the illness going around, but I mentioned it earlier, but one name that I'm really looking forward to tomorrow, who I think is going to get a lot of run, is Sam Williams. He's just been better and better and better and better. He might be the most improved player on this defense this year, at least from improved from, not from last year to this year, obviously, but just from start of the year to now. I mean, he's night and day. He's so explosive. He's He's got a lot of really impressive tools, and I've said it before. He reminds me of a young Randy Gregory a little bit. So this is another opportunity for Sam Williams to really make a statement. And with Demarcus Lawrence banged up, and maybe he might either miss the game or be on a limited snap count. This is going to be a big Sam Williams game, I think.
Yeah, and I kind of want to see, him continue to kind of do what he's been doing. I just love the attitude, the energy that he brings to this defensive line. And it's just, I mean, you can count, I mean, Dorrance Armstrong, Sam Williams, Demarcus Lawrence, Micah Parsons, just everybody that's coming on this defense line has been productive this year. Dante Fowler's been productive in, certain stretches this year. So it's just, they're coming in waves, and, with the spark that Sam Williams has brought over the past few weeks, and then getting Damone Clark back in there and caught up to speed. This defense is, really it's really nice to have. It's really a lot of depth,
Yeah.
and at positions that the Cowboys haven't always been deep at. But credit to Dan Quinn. He had a little lapse, against Green Bay. I think as a team, the entire team did. But what
Yep.
a bounce back performance, only allowing 3 points and making sure that you could keep the Vikings out of the end zone. And then it's still crazy. Crazy stat for this defense is they still have not allowed a first quarter touchdown all season.
That's insane. That is
Yeah,
insane.
it's crazy. So, I want to see that trend continue. And, that kind of speaks to, like, with this pass rush, you're playing from ahead a lot if you're not allowing touchdowns. So it's going to be important to continue that trend as well.
All right. Yeah. No, I completely agree. Let's get into predictions and get on out of here. I'll let you go ahead.
All right, so the theme of this show has been, the Cowboys stay focused, dominate the process, don't come out relaxed. This is a game where I said it, early in the broadcast, that this is a game where the Cowboys are just so far superior as far as talent goes than the Giants. I don't see any way the Giants come in here on Thanksgiving and win this football game, despite the recent struggles that the Cowboys have had, despite the illness concerns that the Cowboys have had, throughout the last week and a half. I think the Cowboys come out and I think they put it on the Giants pretty good. I'm gonna say 32-13, and this is a game that is going to be over, and we're going to be eating. Whatever you're going to eat for your Thanksgiving spread, you're going to be eating it and you're going to be feeling good. And you might even doze off during this game because that's how under control the Cowboys are going to have this thing. So yeah, 32-13, Cowboys win, go to 8-3, and officially go 2-0 against the New York Giants this year.
Yeah, with how the Eagles seemingly keep winning, and they've faltered a little bit lately. So I think you're gonna have a chance to catch them if you're able to handle your own business and handle things in your own house. This is a really important game to keep that going. Really put away the New York Giants in the divisional race, because I've heard and seen. Oh, the Cowboys are a third place team. Well, not anymore, and they won't be the rest of the year. I think after tomorrow, Dallas puts away the Giants for the rest of the year. It's definitely the type of game that Dallas is currently favored by, I believe, 9.5, 10 points.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see what that ends up closing at, but this just feels like a game where Dallas just puts it on them. I think you and I are on the same page here. I think Dallas makes another statement. I think they're able to get out ahead early on, and whenever this offense gets the defense a decent lead where the other team has to start throwing the ball a little bit, that's where Micah Parsons gets unleashed a little bit. I think this is a huge Micah Parsons game, just with the Giants injuries up front. And Micah talks a little bit. He was talking on Twitter about being frustrated that MVP is only a quarterback award.
Mm-hmm. I saw that.
Micah has a case to be in that MVP conversation, and I don't think he'll ultimately get in there. But the Cowboys Thanksgiving game is traditionally one of the, if not the most watched game of the NFL season. So I think Micah, goes ahead and takes advantage of that and has a massive day. Really puts a stamp on his Defensive Player of the Year campaign, and who knows, maybe starts to give himself some MVP steam. So I think this is a big game for the Dallas defense, and I think Dak Prescott just continues to do what he does against the NFC East and just dominates them, especially at home. We went over the numbers. So I think Dallas gets an early lead and just kind of rolls. I'll go 34-14 Dallas. I think this is another 30+ point outing, another big day for Dak Prescott. And I don't know which weapon will go off for Dallas, but I think we might get a big day out of. I'll go CeeDee Lamb. I think CeeDee has a big day, and in the passing attack kind of feasts on that banged up Giants secondary. So uh, I completely agree with you. I'm very excited to be. We usually my family usually does dinner, Thanksgiving dinner before the Cowboys game, kind of plan around the Cowboys game, and
Absolutely.
I think in the second half I might be making my way back to the kitchen to get some leftovers and maybe get a second helping of the good stuff. So I think you and I
Absolutely.
are on the same page there.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to the whole feast. My family's the same way. We're gonna be, eating by about 1:30, and we're gonna be sitting down good to go for 3:30 for this football game. And then, I'm saying for the second half, I might be eating the entire second half. And like Dad said, I might be smoking on that Giants pack, by
Yeah,
halftime in this one. So I'm looking forward to it. I hope everybody out there that listens to this has a happy Thanksgiving. Um,
absolutely.
Glad we can continue bringing this podcast to you guys, and thank you for supporting it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys so much for listening. And again, have a happy Thanksgiving. Enjoy the Cowboys game. Be sure to follow us on all of our socials. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe. Check Corey out on Twitter at the Mr. Douglas with two S's. You can get me on Twitter at Nate_Stant77. We will talk to you next time on the Silver and Blue podcast. Have a happy Thanksgiving and enjoy the Cowboys Thanksgiving matchup with the New York Giants, where hopefully when we speak again, Cowboys will be 8-3 and we'll keep rolling.
Yes, sir.